we say, Spirit of wisdom, open my eyes again. Spirit of revelation, open my heart again. Spirit of wisdom, open my eyes again. Spirit of revelation, open my heart. 'Cause I wanna see you, Jesus. I wanna see you. I wanna see you rightly. 'Cause I know your eyes are like flames of fire. I know your head is white as wool. I know your voice, it sounds like waters. Jesus, you're beautiful. I know your eyes are like flames of fire. I know your hair is white as wool. I know your voice, it sounds like waters. Jesus, you're beautiful. And I know your eyes are like flames of fire. I know your hair is white as wool. I know your voice, it sounds like waters. Jesus, come on, declare it. Jesus, Jesus, you're beautiful. 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 Jesus, there is none like you. There is none like you, Lord. Jesus, you're beautiful. There is none like you, Lord. Jesus, you're beautiful. I wanna see you, Lord Jesus. I wanna see you rightly. Come on, all across this room, lift your hands, lift your eyes. Choose to look upon you, Lord. Beautiful, the matchless Jesus. Oh, in the midst of distractions, in the midst of all the options, we choose you. We choose to lay hold of the beautiful one named Jesus. We choose to come before the throne, to gaze into the eyes that burn like fire for us. You've never deserted us. Your passion has never waned for us. Your 'cause you thought I was worth saving. So you came and changed my life. You thought I was worth keeping. So you cleaned me up inside. You thought I was to die for. So you sacrificed your life so I could be free, so I could be whole, so I could tell everyone I know. You thought I was worth saving. So you came and changed my life. You thought I was worth keeping. Come on, say you cleaned me up, say it. So you cleaned me up inside. You thought I was to die for. So you sacrificed your life so I could be free, so I could be whole, so I could tell everyone I know. You thought I was worth saving. So you came and changed my life. You thought I was worth keeping. Come on, so you cleaned me up, say it. So you cleaned me up inside. You thought I was to die for. So you sacrificed your life so I could be free, so I could be whole, so I could tell everyone. Come on, now sing like this, say it. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. To the God who changed, to the God who changed my life. And I will praise you forever. I'll worship you forever. I'll give you forever. Oh, because I am free, because I am whole, and I will tell everyone. Come on, sing it again, say it. Hallelujah, hallelujah, to the God who changed, to the God who changed my life. And I will praise you forever. I'll worship you forever. I'll give you forever. Oh, because I am free, because I am whole, and I will tell everyone I know. Hallelujah, hallelujah, So you came and changed my life. You thought I was worth keeping. So you cleaned me up inside. You thought I was to die for. So you sacrificed your life so I could be free, so I could be whole, so I could tell everyone I know. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
I worship you, for you
promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God. That is who you are. That is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God. That is who you are. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, moving in this place. I worship you. I worship you. For you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God. That is who you are. Oh, it's who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God. That is who you are. You are here. You're touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here. You're turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. I call you waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God. That is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God. That is who you are. You wipe away all tears. You mend the broken heart. You're the answer to it all. What's his name? Jesus. Oh, you wipe away all tears. You mend the broken heart. You're the answer to it all. Jesus. You wipe away all tears. You mend the broken heart. You're the answer to it all. My Jesus, my Jesus. Oh, you wipe away all tears. Mend the broken heart. You're the answer to it all. Jesus. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. That is who you are. You're waymaker, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. That is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 Come on, lift up a shout all over this place. That is who you are, Jesus. You're the waymaker. You are the waymaker. we love you.
God,
I'm right here.
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
Hang on. You pray this prayer a lot.
I love this prayer.
It's a great
It's
prayer.
one of my favorite prayers.
Yeah.
Top 10.
Really good.
Yeah.
I don't know if you really understand it.
Oh, I do.
I don't know that you do.
Oh, I do. I really do. I understand the prayer. Yes, yes.
Okay, that's pride, and we'll deal with that later. But I want right now to just slow down and let's really think about what you're praying.
Slow down. Okay. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I
Okay,
cannot
hold on. Yeah. Do you even know what serenity is?
Yes, I know what serenity is. Yes, it's the act of serening. You know, it's serene it. It's serene. You know what? He was a knight in King Arthur's court. He was serenity, and he was there, and he was kind of the tranquil, nice knight, you know. And then one time, Lancelot and King Arthur were about to do fisticuffs over Guinevere, you know, and he had enough, and he just said, serenity now, you know. And everybody thought he was talking about himself, but he was really just stating the philosophy of life, which we now use in this prayer. So hashtag serenity now.
So you don't know what it means?
Nary a clue.
Serenity. It is the absence of chaos. It is a hush, a pause.
A hush, a pause. I like that.
I want that for you.
I want that for me too.
Good.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change things.
Hush, pause.
Yes.
You've already negated the prayer
How have I negated the prayer?
because you're saying something you don't really mean.
No, I do mean that. I mean that.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
You don't.
How?
Think about it. You are always in the mix of things, constantly trying to
Direct.
manipulate.
Direct.
Manipulate.
I think we should use the word direct.
You cannot manipulate me. Listen, I just want you to accept the simple fact that there are things in life that are beyond your control.
Right. If I'm just to be honest with you, God, I think I like being in the mix of things. I like being in the middle of things, even if I shouldn't. I guess it gives me some significance in some sick, twisted way. And if I were to turn it all over to you, I don't know what you're going to do with it, and I don't even know if you're going to include me in it. But I know, I just need to trust you, and just believe and trust that there's nothing that you would not give me that I could not handle.
No,
What?
Yeah, I never said that.
No, but you said.
No. I get misquoted so much. See, what I said was that there will not be a temptation to overcome you that you can't handle. As long as we're talking about this kind of stuff, can I just tell you something? When I close a door, I don't open a window, all right? That is just weird, all right? If I don't want you to go outside, I'm not going to give you another way to go outside, all right? Listen, this life, sometimes it's really going to be tough. And there are going to be things that come at you that you cannot bear. But nothing will ever come at you that I cannot bear.
Thank you. I like this hush, this pause. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the...
Hush. Pause.
Yes?
Let's talk about those things that you can do something about. See, my Holy Spirit has prompted you to do some things, and you haven't done them.
Okay, in my defense, all right, if we're to look at all the things that I directly manipulate, all right, and then we see that the time that I have left, it's not a lot. I mean, there are just things that I got to do in life just to get things done, okay? This has just been a really busy season of life, all right?
That's an excuse.
Okay, well, here's not an excuse, all right? Your word says to get wisdom from other people, and if I'm going to do my dreams and my visions that you want me to carry out and do, I need to get wise counsel before I take a step of faith and do them.
Okay, but you're using that as an excuse.
It's not my fault.
That's an excuse.
I'm terrified.
That's it.
I'm just terrified. I know what I've done. I know the mess that I've made of my own life. And I know what it's like to fall on my face and then to think that I'm going to step out in faith for you, to even attempt to do one of those dreams for you and to use the DNA that you've created inside me and take a step of faith. I don't want to fail and I don't want to fall.
I have picked you up every time you've fallen. Every time. And I will continue to pick you up. I didn't give you a spirit of fear, but of power and love and self-control. I want you to live out of that.
I know. I just need to let go and let
me.
Yes. It's a really good phrase.
It is.
It's just so hard to do.
I know.
God, I'm so afraid.
I don't want you to be afraid. Trust me. Hear me. That's how we're going to deal with your fear. That's where you'll get your wisdom. And wait on my timing. Don't get ahead of me and don't lag behind me. But you wait on me. That's when you're going to mount up with wings of eagles, and you are not going to crawl through this life anymore, but you're going to start running. My child, you're going to run. You're going to run, and you're not even going to get tired because you're not running by your own strength. You're running with my strength. That's the way to truly live life. And when you do that, you know what?
I can do all things through you who gives me strength.
Yes.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time. Aren't you going to do the whole hush pause thing right here, God?
No. No, you're starting to understand how precious life is.
Sure, I'm trying, God. Ever since I said yes to you, ever since I've realized what the cross is all about, I'm so thankful. I try to savor every day, every breath that I live on this earth, and I'm so thankful for the yeses that you've given to, allowed me to have all the yeses. Thank you, God, for the yeses. And God, I'd be remiss not to thank you for the trials and the tribulations, the times that I've fallen on my face. Oh, the times that you've turned just beauty out of chaos, God. I'd be remiss not to say thank you because the hardships have led me to a pathway of peace. But God, this world,
Pause.
Yes?
This world, like my son, I want you to accept this sinful world as it is, not as you would have it be. And trust that I will make things right.
If I surrender to your will.
Right.
Living one.
Hush. Pause.
Yes.
Surrender.
Yep.
Surrender.
Yeah.
Surrender.
I can't.
I can.
I can't.
I can.
I am not.
I am. I am the great I am. Don't forget that.
I don't know how. I don't know how.
Let me teach you the unforced rhythms of my grace. Oh, my child, you're living this life with a clenched fist. Inside of you is this hurt child who keeps building up walls because you don't want to hurt again. And just as a child holds on tight to something that it's afraid to let go of, you are holding on to your hurts and your hang-ups and your habits. And you will never overcome them by white-knuckling them. This life that I gave you to live was not meant to be lived with a clenched fist, but with an open palm. Surrender. Trust me.
Okay. I surrender. I will trust you with all my heart. I will lean not on my own understanding. In all my ways, I will acknowledge you. And I'll just trust that you're going to direct my path. That I may be reasonably happy in this.
Hush.
Huh?
Pause.
Yes.
Now, let's say the prayer together.
God,
Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting the hardships as a pathway to peace, taking as you see it, the sinful world, not as I would have it, trusting that he would make all things right if I surrender to his will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever and ever in the next. Amen.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Celebrate Recovery. My name is Jeremy. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and by the grace of God, I have overcome the addiction from alcohol, pornography, and I'm still working on anger and control. I'm a work in progress, just like you're a work in progress. But the beautiful thing is, the blessing is that God doesn't give up on us. All right, so tonight's lesson, and what Celebrate Recovery is, it's a 12-step program. It's based on 8 principles right out of the Bible, right from Jesus's teaching on the Sermon on the Mount. And it's Christ-centered, meaning that Jesus Christ is our higher power. So if you're familiar with other 12-step programs, they kind of leave that higher power thing open to interpretation. Here at Celebrate Recovery, we believe that Jesus Christ is the one and only higher power. Hey, Laura, good evening. Greg, how are you, buddy? Steph, thank you for the masks. So tonight, the lesson that we're going to be going over is leading up to the 4th step. And the steps that we've covered so far, in the first step, we admitted that we were powerless. We admitted that whatever hurt, habit, or hang up that we were hanging on to, we admitted that there was a problem there, that it had become unmanageable, out of control. The next step we took was that we came to understand that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity could restore us to the freedom that we desired from whatever it is. So I want to back up for a minute real quick. Another difference between this 12-step program and other 12-step programs is that this is all-encompassing. This is not just for addictions. A lot of people's minds go to alcohol and drugs. Yes, there are a lot of us in here that have struggled with that, but there are a lot of us in here that are trying to overcome abusive relationships or addiction to food, or just being a better parent in general, or a better spouse. So this is all encompassing. This is not exclusive to one addiction, one habit, or the other. So I just want to preface that. So then the third step, and we're not actually going through the steps, we're simply reviewing the steps, explaining the steps so people can understand what to expect when you finally do get a sponsor, which is tonight's lesson. And we, in step 3, made the decision to turn our lives over to the care of God, to the care of Jesus. We accepted Jesus Christ into our lives as our higher power. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to private message me or ask someone in the open share group, which will directly follow this lesson on Zoom. So if you want to join us on Zoom, I would strongly encourage that. It's a great place to find a sponsor. That's kind of giving away a little bit of the lesson. But it's a great group of men and women separated to be able to just share openly, share what's going on, share maybe some of their fears, some of their struggles surrounding the isolation that we're going through, or the temptations maybe that they're feeling in these times. It's just raw. If you don't want to share, that's okay. You don't need to share. You can go in and listen, maybe find encouragement, find hope that you're not the only person that's feeling the way you're feeling right now about whatever it is. So once we get to this point, we see that our road to recovery, our road to overcoming whatever it is that we've still been hanging on to, is not meant to be traveled alone. We're not meant to isolate. We're not meant to do this on our own. We're going to see that we need 3 very important relationships. The most important, I talked about already, that's our higher power, Jesus Christ. We cannot do that without him. I could not have done this without him. I cannot continue to do life without him. I could not imagine a life aside from Christ. Number 2, we're going to see that our recovery groups, our church groups, our family that we come to know and trust in these meetings is another relationship that we can't do this without. We won't be able to overcome this without the accountability of others. If you're like me, I can isolate pretty well, and I can convince myself that whatever's going on up in here is true. So that's where it's important to have that other person or people to bounce these things off of. And lastly, we're going to need a very important relationship with a sponsor. And we're going to see what that means, what a sponsor is versus what an accountability partner is, and how those things differ, but are very similar. So that's what we're going to be going over tonight. So firstly, we're going to try to identify a sponsor or an accountability partner before we get to steps 4 through 9 in particular. The first 3 steps, you're kind of learning this as you go. You're listening to other people. You're finding hope in other people and their stories. But these next few steps, 4 especially and 5, is extremely important to not try to attempt these alone. Step 4 is really where the rubber hits the road. These next steps are all about getting rid of the lies that we've told ourselves, the lies that others have told us, the things that we start to believe about ourselves. So it's important to have someone that's an outside person to discern what we're feeling, what our thoughts are, what the things are that we've been hanging on to. And we'll get into that more as well. Proverbs 15:14 tells us, a wise person is hungry for truth while the fool feeds on trash. So when we don't know what we don't know, it's easy for us to continue to go back to those old ways of thinking. So I'm going to challenge you guys. If you've been watching up to this point, are you ready? Are you ready to feed and learn more about the truth about your life, about who you are, about who God created you to be? It's time. We talked last week in the lesson about what are you waiting for? What's stopping you from accepting Christ into your life? So now the question is, if you've done that, what's stopping you from starting this next step, which is the fourth step? We're going to need a true mentor or coach. In recovery terms, we call that a sponsor. If that word is weird for you, that's okay. You can call it whatever you like. You can call it a mentor, but we're going to use the word sponsor a lot. Some of you may still be unconvinced that you need somebody to come along beside you. That was me. I thought, I got myself into my first AA meeting on my own. I don't need anybody else. And I especially am not going to air my dirty laundry to another guy. That's part of the process. Step 4 is we do a searching and fearless inventory of ourselves. We get real. We start to put all of the things that we've been replaying in our head that tend to create their own realities down on paper and clearly look at them, as opposed to continuing to let them morph into something more than they really are. So we take a fearless and searching moral inventory of ourselves. That's not something you want to do by yourself. That's something you want to do with someone you trust extremely well. And then once you get to that point of having it on paper, you confess it to God and to another person. And again, not something you want to do with someone that you just met. So that's why it's important to come to meetings, to build relationships and find somebody that you can trust. And I'll explain more about how we go about doing that. So tonight I'm going to try to answer the following 5 questions, and I hope you can keep up with me. Going through this, I was kind of getting myself a little lost with all the different 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s, and then the sub 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s, and then the ABCs. So bear with me. Hopefully you can hear the message through my chaos. The first question I'm going to try to answer is, why do I need a sponsor? Why do I need a sponsor or an accountability partner? The second question I'm going to try to answer is, what are the qualities of a sponsor? What kind of person am I looking for to be my sponsor? Number 3, what does a sponsor do? What is a sponsor? And number 4, I'm going to try to answer is, how do I find a sponsor? How do I find this accountability partner that we're talking about? And number 5, what is the difference between the two? What is a sponsor and what is an accountability partner? How are they similar? How are they different? So there's a lot in this. I'm going to try to go through it quickly so we can get to the Zoom meeting. If anybody has any questions, you can feel free to throw them up there. If I catch them as they scroll through, I'll try to answer it. But if not, you can ask them in the Zoom meetings, and hopefully someone could clarify that a little bit for you, or after the Zoom meeting, you can get somebody's contact information. Okay? All right. So first question, why do I need a sponsor and or an accountability partner? So there are 3 reasons, okay, already. We're in question 1 with 3, okay? Bear with me. 3 reasons why we need a sponsor and accountability partner. First, having a sponsor or an accountability partner is biblical. Ecclesiastes 4:9-12 tells us 2 are better off than 1, because together they can work more effectively. If one of them falls down, the other can help him. But if someone is alone, there's no one to help him. 2 people can resist an attack that would be defeated by one alone. So we're not meant to do this alone. Biblically, we are not meant to do this alone. There are many other verses that verify that as well. Proverbs 27:17 tells us, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. That's a phrase that many of you are probably familiar with. The phrase one another is used in the New Testament over 50 times. So we are not meant to do this solo. We're not meant to go at this alone. Okay? Second, in question 1, having a sponsor and accountability partner is a key part of your recovery program. And I think I made that kind of clear earlier. Our recovery has 4 key elements to success. So, okay, you with me? We're at question 4, sub 2. Now we got 3. So you can see how this is a little confusing. So the first key element is to maintain our honest view of reality. To have someone to discern what it is that we're feeling, what we're thinking. A lot of us, our minds are so clouded when we come into this that we can't differentiate what is true from what is false, and what is fabricated in our own minds to what is actually the truth in Scripture and the truth in the reality of our lives. So a sponsor can help discern those things with us. They won't do it for us. But it helps us to finally lean on someone that we can feel that we can be honest with. I have yet to see, I haven't met anyone fail that has thoroughly taken on this process that was completely honest with themselves. 9 times out of 10, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but 9 times out of 10, if you ask someone why they failed or why this didn't work for them or why they relapsed or why they went back out, it's because they either lied to themselves or they allowed a lie to creep in and they just dwelt on it and they let it fester. So a huge part of this is staying in truth. To go back, I have seen people that give up on their recovery because they couldn't step out of their own denial. They couldn't step out of the lies that they were stuck in. So the people that have made it and backslid typically are the ones that are going back into a lie, and the ones that couldn't get out of it are the ones that stayed stuck in the lies. So a sponsor can help you get out of those lies and stay away from those lies. Having someone to help keep you honest is a huge plus in successfully working the steps. I couldn't have answered some of the questions. I couldn't have gone through some of the processes on my own because I couldn't have been honest. But listening to my sponsor, listening to him answer questions and be vulnerable encouraged me to say, okay, well, if this guy could say this, and if this guy did these things, I might have a shot. Okay? So the second key is making our attendance to meetings important, a routine, a schedule. When I first got into recovery, I don't think I missed a meeting. I know I didn't miss one for the first 30 days, and I'm quite certain I don't think I missed more than a dozen in the first year. I listened to what people had to say. I committed my life to this as if I wouldn't have another day if I didn't commit this to being the most important thing in my life. So a sponsor can help keep you from getting wrapped up in the busyness, the chaos of life, and kind of hold your feet to the fire and say, which meeting are you going to tonight? Whether it be CR or another 12-step meeting, or which Bible study are you going to go to tonight, or what are you going to do tonight? What are you going to do for an action to hold yourself accountable? And a sponsor can help do that. A sponsor can help keep you focused. So the third element to maintaining our spiritual is maintaining our spiritual program with Jesus Christ through prayer. So our sponsor can help remind us, hey, did you pray today? Who did you pray for? What did you pray for specifically? Which scripture did you read today? Did you read scripture today? So these are things that sponsors can help kind of nudge you along. But this is not a one-way street. A sponsor is not going to read the scripture for you. A sponsor is not going to tell you who to pray for. Those are things that through practice we need to start to build these responsibilities and accountabilities. And then the last key element to a successful program is getting involved in service. is getting involved and coming in early and helping to set up the tables for Tuesday nights meetings, helping to come get the plates out or make coffee, helping to serve others. Once we've completed step 12, we'll be able to serve as a sponsor ourselves. But until then, our sponsor is someone that can encourage us and ask us the hard questions. What are you doing today? Who are you serving today? Who are you going out of your way to help today? And they can, I get it. It can seem very confusing and a lot of stuff's happening in your life, at this point. They can give you ideas. You may not know where to start, but a sponsor can help you, point you in that right direction. All right, so going back to the next one, having a sponsor or accountability partner is the best guard against relapse. So by providing feedback to keep us on track, our sponsor or accountability partner can see our old dysfunctional patterns. They can see the triggers. If we're being honest, if we're sharing these things with them, they can maybe point things out before we even recognize them ourselves. They can confront us with truth without placing shame or guilt on us or judgment. They don't. They aren't going to be. They aren't going to be someone that is going to say, like a caring mother would, or a spouse. They're not going to say, "Oh, you did that again." I knew you'd do that, or not that they mean it that way, but it's hard when you don't know what someone's going through in addiction. It takes someone that's been there before to be able to gain that trust, to make you look at it clearly from a unbiased and unjudgmental perspective. Hopefully that makes sense. I think the trouble that, if we're being honest, I think the trouble that most of us have is that we would rather be ruined by praise, ruined by glory, than saved by criticism. I think that's probably a fair statement. Not many of us like to be criticized. Not many of us like to have our flaws pointed out to us. But when it's done in a loving and caring way by someone that's truly trying to help us, the same way that they had been helped before, it's much more successful than trying to point out the things that we're doing right all the time. All right, so the second question we're going to try to answer is, what are the qualities of a sponsor? So what are the qualities of a person that you might want to ask to be your sponsor? The first thing I want to do is look at Proverbs 25. Though good advice lies deep within a counselor's heart, the wise man will draw it out. So when you're looking for a sponsor, the most important thing, in my opinion, is, does their walk match their talk? Are they living these 12 steps that we're learning about? Are they living a life for Christ? Or are they just saying the lingo? A lot of us that have been around recovery groups, we know that person. We know that person that knows the words to say, or knows the scripture to go to, but are they truly living that out? Is that their life in practice? So that's the kind of person that you want to look for as a sponsor. You want to make sure that their life closely imitates the character of Christ that is developing in them, so to say. The next question is, does he or she express the desire to help others? Is it someone that's coming to meetings and they know what to say, and they're sharing their story and everything's good, that those are not negatives, but are they just bolting out at the end? Are they leaving every time? Are they coming in late? Are they showing commitment to try to get to know other people? Maybe it's not you that they're getting to know, but are they at least socializing and interacting with other people and showing that desire to try to help others? That's a characteristic that you want to look for in a sponsor. Do they show compassion? Do they care? And it's listening with hope, but without pity, if that makes sense. You don't want a sponsor that's going to feel sorry for you. But you do need one that's going to be sensitive to your pain. They're going to be sensitive to what you're going through. You don't want them to be fully on the strong hand side, but you also don't want them to be fully on the, oh, it's okay. They probably deserved that, or whatever you did. They may have had that coming to them. You want to find that balance, that where they're strong enough to confront your denial or procrastination in working the steps, but also a good listener. I've had people say, well, I have a really good friend that does all these things. I have someone that I truly trust with my life. But you want to make sure that friend isn't the first person that's going to say, you should really just let them go, or they had that coming. You want someone that is going to follow a Christ-like answer with whatever it is that you're going through. Sometimes that answer isn't always what you want to hear. Sometimes that answer isn't always, yeah, just dump him, just break up with him. That's what maybe a non-believer, a non-Christian friend might tell us. They want to rally, they want to get behind it. They're feeling your passion, and go out there and cut his tire. No, don't do that. No one go out and cut tires. But you know what I mean. Like you don't want to find a rah-rah sponsor that's just going to back you up with whatever you say. Okay, does that make sense? Ultimately what it comes down to is we need to see options or alternatives to what we've already processed in our head by the time we brought these things to our sponsor. You want to find someone that's working these principles in all of that they do. All right, what is the role of a sponsor? So I think we've kind of talked about that a little bit already, but it's especially true with step 4, that they can be there to discuss issues in detail that are too personal or would take too much time to share in a meeting. Some of us, I know my own personal inventory. There are things that I've only shared with my sponsor. There are things that I have not shared with anyone else, because you don't know. You know the people in your group, you know the people in small groups, but you truly don't know someone until you sit down and you go through this process with them. And that's why they need to be able to share their stuff with you as well. And until you've done that with someone else, it's almost impossible to understand what they're sitting down and they're about to do in writing their inventory or in sharing their fifth step. Okay, so you may hear things or you may say things as the person that's going through this, like I'm just scum. I'm the lowest form of life or whatever. You're probably feeling things that I admit it. I did this, but it wasn't nearly as bad as what so and so's done. Those are the things that you need to share with a sponsor that you just don't want to share with just anybody. Okay, because if you don't trust someone enough to know that they won't go talk about what you just shared with them, it could ruin your recovery process. If people go out and start gossiping about what they heard, it can destroy someone's life. It can destroy a spouse's life. It can destroy a kid's life if they start hearing these things about what their dad's done or what their mother's done. These are things that need to be shared in a private, intimate setting. Okay? But like I said earlier, the sponsor that you choose needs to be available in critical times. They need to be available all the time to you, but sometimes it can be a quick text message. I know one of the guys on sponsoring, we text throughout the day, but I know when I see his phone number come up on my caller ID, it's important. There's something going on, and all of my time, whatever I'm doing, gets devoted to that. I've used this phrase many times with other people. Call me before you take that drink. Call me before you push power on your computer to power up that website. I promise you that if we take 15 minutes to talk and you don't feel better, you didn't get it out of your system, or your mind isn't switched over to Christ and gotten out of whatever funk you're in, that drink will still be waiting there for you. That computer is not going anywhere. What's it going to hurt? What's it going to hurt to just call and reach out and just try it? That's 9 times out of 10, that's where you can take that thought, you can take that temptation, and by talking through it with your sponsor, someone you trust, it will divert your attention. It'll help you focus to pray about somebody. It'll help you to get out of whatever that sulk fest is that you were going through that brought you back to that temptation to want to do whatever it is that you were doing, or go back to that moment in your life that you're just struggling so hard to get over. Talking through it with your sponsor can help you avoid backsliding into that. I said it earlier, they serve as a sounding board. But the most important thing a sponsor does is they attempt to model a lifestyle that results from working the steps. It's difficult to inspire others to accomplish what you haven't been willing to do yourself. And one of the biggest things that I want to point out is a sponsor can be fired. A sponsor can be fired, and a sponsee can be told that this isn't working out. If you're being suggested to do these things and you're being, told what's worked for them and you're not doing it, they're probably going to say this isn't working out. Maybe I'm not doing my job right. Maybe you're not ready to make this commitment, and that's okay. But a sponsor can be told, I guess it wasn't really what I thought it was going to be, and it didn't click, or any number of reasons. It's okay. This doesn't need to be a lifelong commitment to that other person, but when it clicks, it will be. I know I could call my sponsor today, and we don't talk that much anymore. My sponsor has evolved into other people, other men I look up to and I strive to learn from. But I know today, if I felt that desire to take a drink, I could call my sponsor right now and he would stop what he's doing. So how do I find a sponsor or an accountability partner? That responsibility falls on you. That falls on me. That falls on you to find your own sponsor. I've seen people suggest somebody. I've suggested people in the past. Didn't work so good. It needs to be a natural draw for you to that person. And that you can have temporary sponsors. That's okay. Just say, hey, I'd really like to start this process. Do you mind starting me through, and we'll see where it goes. And if it doesn't work out for either one of you, you can sever that. But one of the most important things is male with male, female with female. I don't think that needs to be discussed much more than that. If you disagree, I'd be happy to talk to you about it, but I think you understand why. Can you relate to the person's story? That's how you can find a sponsor, by listening and choosing someone that they meet the qualities that we discussed earlier, but you can also identify with parts of their story or all of their story. You can find a sponsor by coming to the meals, coming to CR and church on Sundays, and investing in true fellowship with other people. More than just coming in, leaving, and going home, and coming to the next meeting, or coming to church and bolting home. It's hard to find. It's hard to hear what people have to say. When we're constantly just head down out the door. And I get it. That's hard. It's very hard. And that's why it's on us as people that have been coming to CR to continue to open up, continue to share, continue to be honest and vulnerable to draw in those other people, the newcomers. If you ask someone to be your sponsor or an accountability partner and they say no, do not take that personal. Do not take it as a rejection of who you are. Try to remember that they have their own recovery that has to come first. They may not be able to make that commitment. You may love everything they say, everything that you hear coming out of their mouth. You may love their walk, but they may not be able to make that commitment. And that's better than trying to struggle through it and push through it. The most important thing, and I can't stress this enough in finding a sponsor, is asking God to lead you to that sponsor, to lead you to that person in your life that He already has planned for you when you started this journey. He knows. He knows what you need to hear. He knew what I needed to hear. He knew all of the struggles that I had gone through in my life, all of the things that I thought not a single person could understand what I've gone through, that there's not a single person in here that's drinking that can understand the depth of the hurt that I'm carrying around, because it's got nothing to do with alcohol. It's something that happened when I was younger, before I even started drinking, but I came to find out that I was smashing that down and trying to cover that up with the alcohol, just like they were. Just like probably you are. Whatever it is that's in your life that's holding you back and hanging you up probably has nothing to do with the substance you're using or the filler that you're using. Maybe it is that thing. Maybe you know exactly what it is that's continuing to just hold on to you and keep you entangled in the guilt and the shame. The guilt being maybe that you were the person that did the action. The shame being the thing that happened to you that you feel like you just can never heal from. I promise you that there is someone out there that's gone through a very similar thing, if not the exact thing like my sponsor had. And I didn't know he had until I sat down and I shared my inventory with him. And he said, it was the last thing I shared because I was determined I wasn't going to share it. And he looked at me and he said, "You got anything else?" And I looked back at him and I said, "Yep, this." Tears started flowing. I was bawling like a baby. And he looked back at me with a smile on his face. I wasn't very happy. And he said, "I've been through the same thing. The same exact thing happened to me. The same exact thing is something that I've done." That's God. Okay? There's someone out there for you. Whatever you're going through, whatever you're struggling with, there is someone out there that God has a plan to put you in touch with, to work you through it. So the difference between a sponsor and accountability partner. I'm going to wrap this up quickly for two reasons. We need to get to the Zoom meeting, and my phone just told me I have 10% battery left. So this is like a roll of the dice. We're going to see which happens first. All right. So if you guys lose me, pray at home with each other. And know that I will have a charger plugged in and I will meet you all in the Zoom meeting. So the difference, and this is a fairly easy way to summarize it, the difference between accountability and a sponsor is, think of a gym partner, someone that you're going to go to the gym with, you're going to get amped up with, you're going to go flex in the mirror with, you're going to kind of do life with side by side. They're going to spot for you. They're going to encourage you. They're going to get you wound up. They're going to get you game ready. A sponsor is somebody that's going to stand there when you're flexing in the mirror, and they're going to be shaking their head, and then they're going to come over and they're going to say, "What were you doing?" That I get it, but don't you think you just wasted a lot of energy doing that? Don't you think maybe we could have stretched. We could have taken some time to mentally prepare for this workout that we're getting ready to go do. They're going to come up with that plan for you, that path for you to get through all the circuits, all of the different things that you need to do when you're at the gym. Okay, so that's kind of the best way for me to explain it. That's all I got right now. I'm sure there's other ways I could explain it, but I think everybody kind of understands, that analogy is an accountability partner is someone that's either a little bit ahead of you or where you're at in your recovery process. Someone that you can bounce things off of, share things with, intimately, but ultimately try not to rely on them for the difficult decisions, the difficult things that come up, because they may be at the same point you are, and they may want to go out there and do the thing that you shouldn't do because they're close to where you're at. Whereas your coach, your accountability partner, is going to tell you, no, it might be painful. Why don't you go out there and take that charge? Why don't you go out there and stand in front of that guy that's barreling down at you? It might be painful, but it's going to be worth it because we're going to win that game, right? Your accountability partner might be saying, yeah, that guy really fouled you. Why don't you hack him when he's coming down the lane? Okay? So hopefully that explains the difference between an accountability partner and a sponsor. Both very important, both crucial to your growth, but there is a difference, okay? So that's pretty much all I have for tonight. Looks like my battery's going to allow me to pray for us tonight. I thank you for joining us. If you don't have Facebook, if you don't have the time to come on, please share this with friends if you think there's someone that could benefit from it. We